A very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top stories from India and across the world. I'm Tracy Shilshi, and in the next 30 minutes, I'll be getting you all those top stories and also a special focus really on the CBI, its credibility being questioned again. This, of course, in regard to the 2G case. Details of that in a bit. But first, the headlines. A special court called CBI case on additional 2G spectrum allocation false and fabricated, exonerates former Telecom Secretary Shyamlal Ghosh, Airtel and Vodafone. Bihar is all set to vote for the second phase of elections. Tight security arrangements are made for polling in Maoist-sensitive regions. The government unveils steps to tackle galloping price rise for pulses, decides to import 2,000 tons to increase supply. Supreme Court stays the ban on dance bars in Maharashtra. Chief Minister Fadnavis says the state government will regulate them to prevent obscenity. And after playing 92 tests and 200 ODIs, Indian bowler Zair Khan calls it a day. BCCI calls him a perfect role model who displayed passion and commitment. Our top story: in a big setback for the CBI, the special 2G court pulled up the agency for filing a false and fabricated charge sheet in the additional spectrum scam. The court then went on to discharge former Telecom Secretary Shyamlal Ghosh and 3 telecom firms in the same case.
The CBI got a rap on its knuckles from the court trying the 2G spectrum case. The court pulled up the agency for filing a false and fabricated charge sheet in the 2002 additional spectrum scam case. Observing that the Central Investigating Agency tried to mislead the court, Special CBI Judge O.P. Saini also asked the CBI Director to conduct an inquiry against the officials responsible.
कोर्ट का आदेश ये है कि ये सारा झूठा था, ये फैब्रिकेटेड था और विथ समबडी सम अल्टरियर मोटिव इसको फाइल किया गया था. कोर्ट ने ये क्लियरली कहा है कि दिस इज एन एक्सरसाइज फॉर एक्सट्रानियस रीजन ये चार्जशीट पेश किया गया था. तो कोर्ट ने सही तरीके से कहा है कि जिसने भी ये आदेश दिया कि इनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई किया जाए और सब कुछ, तो वो जांच किया जाए और जो भी दोषी पाया जाए उसके और सीबीआई डायरेक्टर को डायरेक्शन दिया है कोर्ट ने.
I have always been completely confident in the justice given by the judicial system in this country. Firstly, because I had done no wrong. Secondly, I had faithfully implemented the then prevailing policy. Thirdly, those actions resulted in the state of the telecom sector as it is now.
Ghosh and 3 telecom firms, Hutchison Max Private Limited, Sterling Cellular Limited and Bharti Cellular Limited, were charge sheeted by the CBI in the case relating to DOT allocating additional spectrum, allegedly leading to a loss of over 846 crore rupees to the exchequer. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley targeted former Telecom Minister Kapil Sibal, saying the CBI filed the charge sheet at his behest. He said that since at the time the UPA government was riddled with scams, Sibal had selected a retired judge of his choice, asking him to unearth an NDA scam in telecom. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, for more on this story, we're joined by J. Gopikrishnan, a special correspondent with Pioneer. Thanks so much, sir, for joining us. You know, just talking about like we talked about earlier, the credibility of the CBI now being questioned again. Just late last year as well, in the 2G case as well, we saw the Supreme Court saying that all is definitely not well within the CBI, you know, with the former director apparently meeting individuals representing accused firms. Once again, now the CBI there, being left embarrassed.
This is the saddest part of CBI's activities in India. Because how this Shyamlal Ghosh case happened, it has a long history. 2011, the UPA was riddled with this 2G scam. So the Congress manager, UPA managers wanted to drag the case into something on NDA's part. So they questioned so many days Arun Shourie. They tried their level best on Arun Shourie, but they could not get anything. So they went up with this excess spectrum case in 2002. And in the charge sheet, they made Pramod Mahajan deceased. And they named Shyamlal Ghosh the only individual, and the 2 telecom companies, one Airtel and Vodafone's earlier 2 companies, erstwhile companies, Hutchison and and Sterling. The very first day, trial court judge O.P. Saini was it's not asking, he was shouting to CBI officers, how can you make a criminal conspiracy with a single person? Explain this Shamal Ghosh so-called conspiracies with whom? So he was asking, and CBI was dilly-dallying because it's not Airtel, Vodafone, who CBI officers and even let me say Congress that time managers, they thought of taking, but they when come to Shamal Ghosh and when Airtel and others, they could not, because it's an old case.
Yes.
And 2011 you are asking 2002 case that secretary became 70-year-old. How can people remember all these things?
Absolutely.
And then after court's order, CBI said that Sunil Mittal, Asim Ghosh and Ravi Ruia, they have charge sheeted. But Supreme Court said that there is nothing is there. Today's charge sheet is today's order is actually a slap on the face
Absolutely.
of CBI.
And you're also pointing it out that the CBI, of course, working at the behest of the Congress government at that time, dragged the case on. It wasn't any secret. Everyone has been talking about this as well. And today, and of course, seeing now Arun Jaitley, writing that letter or, at least that statement against Kapil Sibal, and this is the problem really that everyone faces, as far as CBI probes are concerned, especially in the 2G case, that, they've now become like an instrument of the government, not actually working on their own. And time and again, we are seeing issues like this. And then where's the accountability then? Especially now in this case, who is going to be proven that who was the one who filed this distorted and fabricated case?
Sadly, CBI always, not for Congress, whoever in power, CBI always went with the political masters in each and every case. They may charge sheet small officers and others. When it comes to a politically sensitive case or the big fishes, CBI, we always see they are shivering, they are wavering in the court, their prosecution waivers, they were charge sheets not strong. And look at the case of Ranjit Sinha. Such a director we have seen, and no action has taken against him till date.
Yes.
He has removed by the Supreme Court in 2G case. Now he is facing probe. But what the government taken action against an errant, uncouth CBI director, Ranjit Sinha?
Absolutely. And, just talking about the 2G case now, such a big case dealing with, a slew of, those accused, not just, of course, the firms, but also talking about politicians. And, they're handling such a big case, but when such observations come along, it puts them on shaky ground. And what kind of a precedence does it also set further on?
See, the main 2G case on Rajya and Kanimuri is now reaching the final argument stage, and that case is very strong. But second SR Loop case, I must say it's not a strong case because there is no Prevention of Corruption Act is not charged, because there is no government official, so no Prevention of Corruption Act. But the main case of Rajya and Kanimuri and the Enforcement Directorate's PMLA case are very strong. These are the problems, not only politicians, there are pressures are there, and how long and how can and how up to an officer, an IPS officers or CBI investigators can stand up to such pressures. And the 2G cases is going on daily, and this is the fastest in India. But even though it takes, now it is 5th year, but daily, because in these cases you will see when money is coming, lot of advocates. We have seen one prosecutor, one senior prosecutor was also caught on a phone scandal.
That's
with
right.
other accused.
Yes.
It happens. What we need is the persons with integrity, which is very well lacking in this country.
All right, Mr. Gopi Krishnan, thanks so much for joining us on this story. I wouldn't be surprised if, in the days to come, we see a debate on really whether the CBI needs to be reformed, subsumed perhaps under the Lokpal. We never know. We'll have to wait and see. But thanks so much for joining us on this story. Let's move on now to Bihar, where, of course, preparations are on for that second phase of elections, which will, of course, take place tomorrow on Friday. Apart from ensuring a free and fair election, the Election Commission is also engaged in educating people on the need to exercise their franchise. Security too is watertight to ensure smooth polling. RSTV's Pranab Goswami reports.
Campaigning for the second phase of elections in Bihar ended on Wednesday evening. Tight security arrangements have been made for the second phase of elections to be held on October 16th.
सब पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस को भेज दिया गया है अपने अपने इलाके में. एरिया डोमिनेशन अभी भी चल रहा है. वोटर्स का कॉन्फिडेंस के लिए हम लोगों ने फ्लैग मार्चेस करवाई हैं और लगातार डीमाइनिंग ऑपरेशंस हो रहे हैं. एंटी नक्सल एंटी क्रिमिनल ऑपरेशंस भी हो रहे हैं. लिए हमारी फ्लाइंग स्क्वाड की टीम, स्टैटिक चेकिंग टीम्स, हर पॉइंट पे चेकिंग्स लगी हैं.
Like in phase 1, paramilitary forces will man the polling booths across the state. The responsibility of patrolling has been given to the local police. Security forces have been dispatched to their designated polling booths. There will be aerial surveillance of sensitive polling booths. Drones will also be used to keep vigil. There will also be video surveillance at polling booths, and flying squad teams will be in place if complaints are received. Landmine protection vehicles will march in Naxal-affected areas. 20 companies of the paramilitary forces will be engaged in road opening work.
बहुत बड़ी संख्या में पैरामिलिट्री फोर्स आ रही है जो प्रत्येक मतदान केंद्र पर रहेगी ताकि लोगों को सुरक्षित होने का एहसास हो सके और एक कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग मेजर हो सके. हमारा जिला नक्सल अफेक्टेड भी है, उसके लिए भी हम लोगों ने पूरी तैयारियां की है. क्योंकि नक्सल अफेक्टेड होने के कारण कई प्रकार के नए सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न्स रहते हैं, तो उन सभी को हम लोगों ने एड्रेस करने की कोशिश की है. लेकिन फिर भी पूरी अलर्टनेस है ताकि किसी प्रकार की दुर्घटना ना हो.
Voting will take place in 6 districts in the second phase. 32 seats in these 6 districts will go to polls. 458 candidates are in the fray. Voting will be held in Gaya, Rohtash, Arwal, Kaimur, Jahanabad and Aurangabad. Polling will begin at 7 in the morning and will end by 3 p.m. in one-third of the seats, 4 p.m. in the other third of the seats and 5 p.m. in the final third. Voting percentage during the previous elections in these districts was low. The Election Commission has initiated several programs to educate voters here on the need to exercise their franchise. Religious organizations have also appealed to people to exercise their rights. The voting percentage in the first phase of elections was 2% more than the last time, but the figure was still less than expected. There is hope that better security and awareness about the need to vote will positively impact voter turnout in the second phase. Pranab Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
On to other news now, and the spike in price of pulses has prompted the government to swing into action with a number of measures. Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that 2,000 tons of pulses will be imported to tackle the situation. The centre has also decided to pull in 500 crore rupees to reduce the cost and imports to create a buffer stock.
Wholesale inflation has seen deflationary trend for close to a year now, but people continue to reel under the burden of rising prices, especially of pulse, which has risen manifold in recent days. Retail prices of tur dal rose to 181 rupee per kilogram in most parts of the country. It's more than double of what the price was 12 months ago. Urad dal prices also increased to 187 rupee per kilogram from 99 rupee per kilogram in the same period last year. The government blamed the climate as the reason behind low production of pulses.
सबसे बड़ी बात है कि दाल का हम लोगों के यहाँ जो खपत है वो 225 लाख टन है और जो पैदावार जो है इस बार मौसम खराब हुआ, पैदावार हुआ है 192 लाख टन पिछली बार हुआ था और 172 लाख टन इस बार हुआ है. जब पैदावार कम होता है और डिमांड ज्यादा होने लगता है तो स्वाभाविक है कि जो काला बाजारी होना शुरू हो जाता है और जमाखोरी शुरू हो जाता है.
On Wednesday, an interministerial group led by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley took stock of the situation. He announced to pull in a 500 crore rupee fund to control the spiraling prices. This will help to increase supplies and make pulses available in the retail markets at lower rates. Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the centre will import 2,000 tons of pulses. This will be in addition to the 5,000 tons lying in the ports and another 2,000 tons in transit. The centre also urged the states to step up and cooperate to cool the prices.
राज्यों को पत्र दिया गया कि प्याज, आलू और दाल आपके राज्य में लगता है कि स्टॉक कम है, महंगा होने वाला है, तो आप प्रपोजल दीजिए, पूरा वर्किंग कैपिटल देंगे. लेकिन दुर्भाग्य था कि राज्यों ने इस पर ध्यान नहीं दिया. अब आंध्र और तेलंगाना ध्यान दे रहा है. और दूसरा जो जमाखोरी है ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा संकट है. भारत सरकार को जितना मंगाना चाहिए था पहले से ज्यादा मंगाया है इस बार.
Pulses prices have risen unabated for the past few months due to a fall in domestic output by about 2 million tons due to deficient monsoon last year and unseasonal rains. To tackle the situation, the government has imposed restrictions on holding of pulses stocks beyond the ceiling and taken action against hoarders and black marketers. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Dance bars in Mumbai will reopen with the Supreme Court putting on hold the controversial law banning them. But the court has said that the dignity of women should be protected, and that is the duty of the state police to ensure. Dance bars are probably the only issue where successive governments cutting across the political divide agree that they are fronts of prostitution. There were around 700 dance bars across Maharashtra employing more than 75,000 women. The state police had cracked down on dance performances in bars for the first time in 2005. Elite establishments, including five-star hotels, though, were exempted. The Dancers Union had also opposed the ban, saying that it would force members into prostitution.
राज्य में डांस बार जिस समय चल रहे थे उस समय जिस प्रकार की प्रवृत्तियां हमको दिखाई पड़ी वो प्रवृत्तियां राज्य में फिर से तैयार न हो इस बारे में राज्य सरकार सजग रहेगी।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने स्टे ऑर्डर ग्रांट किया है कि वो 33A स्टे रहेगा, तो यानी कि अब पॉसिबल है कि डांस किया जा सकता है महाराष्ट्र के रेस्टोरेंट्स में। रिस्ट्रिक्शंस लगाई हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये बोलते हुए कि कोई ऑब्ससिनिटी नहीं होनी चाहिए और इन अकॉर्डेंस विद लॉ हमारे लाइसेंसेस का रिन्यूअल कंसिडर किया जा सकता है।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर बहुत ही बढ़िया है, हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के बहुत आभारी हैं। जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कंडीशन डाली होंगी इन द लार्जर इंटरेस्ट ऑफ सोसाइटी होंगी, हमें मंजूर है।
And now let's get you some more updates from across the country nationwide. The Supreme Court today allowed the voluntary use of Aadhaar card to avail benefits under Manrega, pension, PF and the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana schemes. The Apex Court is modifying its earlier order restricting the use of Aadhaar card for giving subsidy on LPG and for drawing rations under PDS. The CBI moved the Supreme Court for permission to interrogate Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh in a corruption case. The CBI also asked the top court to transfer the case from the Himachal Pradesh High Court to Delhi. The Apex Court will hear the petition on the 26th of October. A Pakistani submarine opened fire on 4 Indian fishing boats and 24 Indian fishermen were arrested from the Gujarat coast. An Indian team is expected to visit Pakistan to inspect the 22 Indian boats seized so far. The date for the visit is yet to be finalized. 2 militants who deserted the police force last month were earlier killed today in Doda district of Jammu and Kashmir. Indian troops launched an operation in a remote belt after receiving specific information. Doda district has been free of the presence of militants for almost 4 years now. Without a quick break here, but still ahead, Turkey is likely to take centre stage in a joint action plan to tackle the migrant crisis in Europe.
A path-breaking presidential visit, combining continuity and change. India redefining relations with Israel and Palestine. What does it mean for India's role in West Asia? Watch The Big Picture at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back to the news tonight. Now, President Pranab Mukherjee has concluded his historic 6-day, 3-nation tour of Jordan, Palestine and Israel. The visit was a positive step towards strengthening India's ties with the 3 nations.
President Pranab Mukherjee sent out a strong message against terrorism in his address to the Israeli parliament, Knesset. The first Indian head of state to address Knesset, President Mukherjee said that India condemns all forms of terrorism.
We are disturbed at the recent violence. India condemns all forms of terrorism. We have always advocated a peaceful resolution of all disputes. I'll seek the assessment of the leadership of Israel about the recent developments in this region, which have caused concern for the entire world and which have direct implications for India.
Mukherjee, who reached Jerusalem after concluding his visits to Jordan and Palestine, however, refrained from referring to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in this address. But he did touch upon the topic during a speech earlier in Palestine. There, he had reiterated India's support to a negotiated solution.
Like Jordan, India's traditional support to the Palestinian cause remains steadfast and unwavering, while we pursuing strong relations with Israel. Our bilateral relations with Israel are independent of our relations with Palestine. India supports a negotiated solution resulting in a sovereign, independent, viable and united state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital, living within secure and recognized.
In Palestine, the president was also conferred an honorary doctorate by the Al-Quds University in Abu Dis in East Jerusalem. Earlier in Jordan, President Mukherjee held delegation-level talks with Jordanian Prime Minister Abdullah Ansor. The two sides discussed the situation in Syria, Palestine and the threat posed by the Islamic State. India and Jordan also signed 6 agreements of cooperation in several areas, including merchant shipping, training of diplomats, information technology, cultural exchanges and media. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In other international news, European Union leaders will meet later today to discuss the spiraling migrant crisis. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that Turkey will take centre stage in these plans, as most refugees traveling in fact reach through Turkey to reach Europe. The EU is of course hoping to sign a joint action plan with it today.
The Syrian refugee crisis tops the agenda for the European Union's meeting in Brussels. The EU is convinced that non-member Turkey is key to resolving the problem.
Ohne Zweifel eine Schlüsselrolle in dieser Situation spielt die Türkei. Denn mit über 2 Millionen Schutzsuchenden trägt sie derzeit die Hauptlast der Fluchtbewegung aus Syrien. Die meisten Kriegsflüchtlinge, die in die Europäische Union kommen, reisen über die Türkei ein. Wir werden die Flüchtlingsbewegung daher nicht ordnen und eindämmen können.
Turkey is holding out for more financial aid, a more liberal visa regime, and faster progress on its application for EU membership. Merkel is expected to visit Turkey for talks during the weekend.
Und das war ein wichtiger Beschluss der Justiz- und Innenminister, nach kontroversen Diskussionen, auch kontroverser Abstimmung, dass die Verteilung von 160.000 Flüchtlingen jetzt beschlossen ist. Die Umsetzung dieses Beschlusses hat begonnen. Ende letzter Woche wurden die ersten Flüchtlinge aus Eritrea von Italien nach Schweden gebracht.
The European Union expects Turkey to sign a joint action plan that will combine procedural support and permission to patrol its coastline, combating human trafficking and strengthening return operations. Nearly 6 lakh migrants have reached EU by sea this year, and they are still pouring in. Turkish officials rescued 21 Syrian migrants on Wednesday after their boat sank near the Greek island Lesbos. Germany also claimed that they rescued 207 migrants off Libya's coast. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And for other international stories, let's get you Global Buzz. Myanmar signed a ceasefire agreement with 8 armed groups as part of its efforts to further the peace process. The signing ceremony in capital Naypyidaw was the culmination of 2 years of negotiations. However, the most active rebel groups, 7 of the 15 groups involved in the negotiations, stayed out of the deal. Israeli forces started a major security operation in Arab areas of occupied East Jerusalem after a surge in attacks by Palestinians. They set up roadblocks in Palestinian neighborhoods and deployed soldiers across the country to stop a wave of Palestinian knife attacks. Japan restarted a second reactor at the Sendai nuclear plant on Kyushu as the government pushed ahead with an unpopular return to atomic energy. The operations were suspended in the wake of the 2011 Fukushima disaster. The plant will start power generation on the 21st of October and enter commercial operations from around mid-November. And finally in sports, Zaheer Khan has decided to quit international cricket. He announced his decision today, admitting that he could no longer handle the rigors of the game. He has been in and out of the team in the last few years due to recurrent injuries which took a toll on his body. He will, of course, end his domestic career next year with the IPL's 9th edition. Zaheer Khan has taken 311 wickets in 92 tests that he played and is 4th on the list of the most successful Indian bowlers in the longer format of the game. He also played a major role in India's 2011 World Cup triumph with 21 wickets in the tournament.
I just felt that this is the right time for me to say bye to international cricket. Cricket has been my life for last 20 years, and since the time I left Sri Rampur back in 1996, I've been pretty much on the road, and it's been amazing. So there are a lot of people to thank, and a lot of people have backed me, and it's just been an amazing journey. Yeah, when I look back, I feel proud about it. The World Cup is right. It just puts you right up there, and to be able to achieve that once in your career is something really, really special, I think, in any cricketer's life.
And that's all we have on the news tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.